The first time I saw the photograph, I didn't sleep for 3 days. It was October 2019, posted in a small Norwegian urban exploration forum. Almost no one outside Scandinavia reads. A grainy, flash-blinded image of a rusted steel hatch set into the ice of the Svartisen glacier. The caption, translated badly by Google, said only, "Found it again. Door is open this time. Do not follow." The thread had 3 replies. The original poster never answered any of them. His account was deleted the same week. I told myself it was nothing. People fake things. People disappear from forums all the time. But the coordinates embedded in the photo's metadata were real. 60.642 Madden again. 14.38117 degree E. A place so remote that even the Sami reindeer herders avoid it in winter. I'm a photographer. I chase dead places for a living. Abandoned Soviet submarine bases, condemned Japanese love hotels, the asbestos-choked towns of the Urals. I thought Svartisen would be another trophy. I was wrong. I flew into Bodo in February, when the sun barely clears the mountains. A fisherman named Tor took me as far as his boat could go, then pointed at the white horizon and said, in careful English, "The glacier eats people who don't belong to it." I laughed. I gave him triple his rate and promised I'd be out in 48 hours. The hike in took 9 hours on snowshoes. The wind was a living thing, trying to peel the skin from my face. When I finally saw the hatch, it looked exactly like the photograph, except the door, a thick slab of naval steel, meant for a Polaris submarine pen, was standing open. A black rectangle punched into the ice, exhaling pale vapor like breath. There were no footprints leading in, only mine leading up to it. I should have turned around then. Inside, a ladder descended 20 meters straight down a shaft, bored through the ice. Military stencils, faded but legible, read, "Property of NATO." Restricted in Norwegian and English. At the bottom, the shaft opened into a corridor of riveted steel, perfectly preserved, as if the cold had mummified the entire structure. Emergency lights, still somehow fed by a geothermal cables, glowed dull red every 10 meters. The air smelled of iron and old snow. I walked for what felt like kilometers. The corridor sloped gently downward, always downward, until the pressure in my ears told me I was far deeper than the glacier should allow. Side rooms branched off, barracks frozen mid-abandonment, bunks made up with wool blankets stiff as boards, a mess hall where coffee cups sat in black rings of evaporated liquid. Everything untouched since, according to the calendars on the wall, March 1968. Then I found the medical bay. The operating theater lights were still on, surgical lamps aimed at an examination table. Leather restraints hung from the sides like dead vines. On a steel tray, bone saws, trepans, a row of syringes filled with something amber and frozen solid. And on the wall, a chart. Human figures in various stages of dissection, but the proportions were wrong. Elongated torsos, too many ribs, skulls with occipital ridges I'd never seen in any anatomy book. Under the chart, someone had written in Norwegian, with a black marker, letters shaking, "They did not die, they were lowered." I took photographs until my fingers went numb inside the gloves. That was when I heard it. A slow, deliberate scrape of metal on metal, far behind me in the corridor. Not the groan of ice, not settling. Footsteps, bare feet on steel, dragging something heavy. I killed my headlamp and stood in the red dark, heart hammering so loud I was sure whatever it was could hear it. The dragging came closer, paused, then changed direction, toward the operating theater. I slipped out the other door and ran. The corridor forked. I took left, then right, then left again. Deeper, always deeper. The lights began to fail, one by one, as if something behind me was switching them off. Eventually, the passage ended at a circular vault door, the size of a house. It, too, was open, just a hand width, but enough to see what lay beyond. A cavern, not man-made. The walls were blue ice, veined with black, and in the center, suspended by steel cables frozen into the ceiling, was a pit. Not a hole, a pit. 30 meters across, perfectly round, descending into darkness that seemed to swallow my flashlight beam whole. Around the edge, more of the operating tables, 9 of them, each occupied. They were not corpses. Their skin was translucent, veins glowing faintly like fiber optics, chests rising and falling in slow tidal rhythm. Faces turned toward the pit as if listening to something calling from below. One of them, a woman with hair like white fire, opened her eyes. They were solid black, no sclera, no iris, just polished obsidian. She looked straight at me and smiled with too many teeth. The dragging sound was in the cavern now, very close. I backed away. The vault door began to close by itself, hydraulics whining after 50 dormant years. I dove through the gap as it slammed shut, rolled, came up running. I no longer cared about direction. I just ran until the corridor spat me out, back at the ladder shaft. I climbed. My hands were bleeding inside the gloves, but I climbed until I saw the faint circle of gray daylight above. When I crawled out, the hatch was closed behind me. Not just closed, welded shut from the inside, a perfect bead of fresh metal gleaming against the old rust. There were no footprints except mine. I made it to Tor's boat by nightfall. He took one look at my face and crossed himself, something I didn't think Norwegians still did. On the ride back, he spoke only once. "You saw the grave beneath the ice." I asked what that meant. He stared at the black water sliding past. In the old stories, the glacier keeps a stomach. Sometimes men dig too deep and wake what sleeps there. It doesn't kill you. It lowers you. Keeps you breathing until it can borrow your warmth when it hungers. They say on quiet nights you can hear them singing under the ice, begging to be let out or let in. I haven't slept properly since. Some nights I wake with frost on my eyelashes, even though the heat is on. Some nights I hear dragging in the walls of my apartment, slow and patient. Last week I went back to the forum. The thread is gone. The photograph is gone. The coordinates now point to open ocean. The glacier has calved, they say. A natural event. But late at night, when the radiator knocks, I pull up the one image I still have. The woman on the table. Black eyes, too many teeth. And I zoom in until the pixels fracture. She's still smiling. And every time, just for a second, her lips move. They say the same 3 words over and over. Soon. Lowered. Soon.